Happy Monday, everybody, and thanks for checking into our latest TDR Trade to Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and what a show we have here today. We are starting strong, very strong here today. Some of the biggest names in the space that has to offer will be on the podcast here today, including off the top, Chairman of Curaleaf, Boris Jordan, followed by the big news announcement this afternoon involving the Cannabist Company Holdings. In Verano Holdings, we'll have the Chairman, George Archos, and the Cannabist Company Holdings President, Jesse Channon, on to talk about that latest transaction. And as usual, MSOS Mondays with Dan Ahrens to get his take on some of these announcements that happened this afternoon. So let's bring in TDR co-host Anthony Varrell here on the Monday. And like I said, we are starting strong here today.
Yeah, it's a good start to the week. It's nice to see a deal materialize. It's great to have Boris on. And I mean, it feels like the sector's alive. Like this week, it actually feels like there's energy off the bat, which is fantastic.
Kind of felt a little bit like Canopy back 6 years ago when they made that announcement with Constellation, but that was a big.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And sensational, but yes,
it's nice to wake up. But listen, we've had some really good conversations. We're going to go back to that rescheduling narrative, and why not? And I guess the reason why is we have probably the most biggest name in the cannabis space right now. Chairman of Curaleaf, Boris Jordan, joins us now here on the podcast. Good to see you, sir, and welcome back. And how are things?
Good to be here. Good to see you guys. Good to see that people are still talking about our industry.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That is a good sign.
This is our world. This is our life. But man, oh man, when you talk about Boris, since I last saw you and talked to you, like Anthony and I, it's been a few months. We actually got our first taste of Washington and went down and interviewed a lot of senators and congressmen and congresswomen. And that was quite an experience. But some of the conversations and things that we've learned since then is that it's not our responsibility, or it's not the Congress's responsibility to know a lot about our industry. It's our responsibility to inform and educate them on. And I know that you're probably a big believer in that. You've been in Washington and connected in this space for a number of years. Are we getting to a point now where we're starting to see more and more conversation take place and more education that's happening? Are we still in an influx of they're still totally misinformed or uninformed with the industry?
Yeah, listen, I have a long history in DC. I worked in the Hill as a staffer back in the 1980s, worked on the Ways and Means Committee, worked for a congressman, ran a campaign. So I've been in and out of the place. Then I took a little hiatus for about 10, 15 years, and then I've been back as part of the cannabis industry. I think the problem in Washington, D.C. is that there was an enormous amount of very negative stigma around cannabis for 50 years. Right?
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about a 50-year history, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you've got all these states' initiatives that are happening. D.C. was asleep at the switch, I think we know now. And frankly, the cannabis industry hasn't done a very good job of educating, people in Washington about the industry. Now, partially that's the fault of the 280E, right? Because people don't have the money. It takes money in Washington, D.C. That's just a fact. It takes money, it takes big money, and you have to hire lobbyists, people that are there all the time, updating, working with congressional leaders and their staffers, more importantly, and educating them on the process. And so I have to say that, there's a few companies that have been doing a lot. I think Charlie Bechtel, I'm going to take my hat off to him. He's done an enormous amount down there. Curaleaf, I'd say almost equal. Charlie probably dedicated more of his own time, but Curaleaf, certainly money and people. I probably spend a little bit less time in DC than he does, but I do go down quite often. And we're trying to do it, but you need more. You need a lot more to educate people. So if you go through DC today, and I think you found this, there's still a lot of people that don't really know what's going on around the country. And that's what's shocking.
At all.
And I think that's why you have this problem in a lot of what's going on, whether it's safe banking or whether it's rescheduling or all these things. Half the people don't know what's going on. And you need time and you need more energy and you need money to get it done. But with that, I will say that I think that certainly in the last 2.5 years, we've made a lot of progress. And I think we're going to hopefully see the effect of that progress here over the next 6 months.
Well, here's the thing. Based on the data that was announced last week during that comment period, that it's got to be obviously helpful, and we understand it will. But how helpful will it be, do you think?
So I have some good news today.
Okay.
And again, one has to qualify this by saying that, Washington is very untransparent, which is a shame. Government should be more transparent. So I have to qualify everything by saying that, we're getting this information through, years of building contacts and relationships in the various agencies, but it's never 100%. I want to clarify it. But the good news is that they have gone through 90% of the comments, and there has been, in those 90% that they've been through, there is no ALJ hearing at this moment. I've also heard that they've gone through Sam's comments, and there's no ALJ standing on that one either. So
wow,
that is what we are hearing. Again, I'm not saying that's 100%, but that's what we're hearing, and we have enough tentacles into DC with enough people to say that that's good news. Now,
absolutely,
they still have another 10%, mainly the last week or so of comments, which there were a lot of. There were a lot of that came in at the end that they have not been through. So we don't know whether there is. It just takes one comment withstanding to have an ALJ. But at the moment, I believe it's good news for us. Very good news.
It's very good news. That aligns exactly with what we had spoken to with Adam Gores last week from the coalition on rescheduling. And I mean, that's definitely very bullish for the process. So I mean, are you hearing any sort of timelines as per the mining through the comments wrapping up? I mean, if they're already 90% through with 10% left, I mean, obviously we don't like timelines in the cannabis space, but I would assume the next couple of weeks that process would have to conclude just by logic.
Yeah, Anthony, I have to say that, as I've always said, I think this is this is definitely both a scientific process, based on science, and it's political as well. Yeah. And, we know that, certainly Kamala Harris has been an outright spokesman for legalization and for Schedule 3.
Yes.
I think she'd even go further if she was president than just Schedule 3. But given the current process, I think it's Schedule 3. She needs this, right? Look how Trump has embraced crypto. Crypto, the Democrats have had struggled with crypto. Yeah. But cannabis is an issue the Democrats have definitely embraced. And frankly, between all of us, there's more people using cannabis in the U.S. than there are trading crypto. Okay,
that's true.
So crypto might affect 0.5% of U.S. society. Cannabis probably affects 15% of U.S. society. And so I believe as an election issue, cannabis has got to be a bigger deal than crypto. And given all the attention being given to crypto, I have got to believe that we're going to be hearing very soon on these cannabis issues here over the next month or so. Now we know what are some of the events we've got coming up. We've got, obviously, she's going to have to make a vice presidential nomination before probably the convention, and then there's the convention. Now the question is, do they want to do this before the convention? Do they want to do this after the convention? From my little experience in running the one campaign that I ran for a congressman back in the 1980s, you want to announce, and the market's not going to like what I'm going to say, you want to announce good news as close as possible to the election as you can.
Yeah.
Because people forget about everything. People are already starting to forget about the fact that, someone tried to assassinate a major presidential candidate and a previous president. They're already not talking about it, right? So that's how quickly things get forgotten, unfortunately, in this country and in the political process. So if they think this is strong enough politically, I would bet that they're going to try and do this as close as possible to the election rather than early. And that also gives them time to do the questions, to go through all of that, to prepare the rule, and then to publish the rule. Now, why do I think there's going to be no ALJ? Not even because of standing.
So you don't think there's going to be an ALJ?
I don't think there's going to be an ALJ, and I'll tell you why. This is going to be litigated anyway. This is going to go to court. There's no question this is going to go to court. Why push an ALJ hearing when you know this is going to go to court anyway?
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. And having the LJ hearing is only a small minor help to a court process, virtually not important. So since this is going to get litigated, somebody's going to submit, Sam and all these crazy prohibitionist organizations are going to submit lawsuits in the 5th District in Texas and other places to try and get, judges that are favorable to this to go their way. Yeah. So we're going to go to court on this. The real question is, can they get an injunction or not? That's going to be the real question. If this just goes, they publish the rule and it goes into litigation and there's no injunction, that's fine, right? I think we'll win, by the way. I think we'll win either way. The problem is going to be whether or not they can get an injunction. If they get an injunction, then we got a problem, right? Because then we're in court and we don't get the benefits of the 280E or the research aspects of it, right? But if they can't get an injunction, if they don't have standing for injunction, then I think we're in good shape. So I think the risk is post-rule rather than pre-rule, is my view. And I think our chances are still very good post-rule as well. That's my view.
And then doesn't the standing from the OLC memo carry weight against an injunction on a future basis if they're going to argue the merits?
The question is what
of
they're
rescheduling.
Arguing. Yeah, the question is what they're arguing, right? It's going to be what is the point of the injunction? I don't see. Listen, explain to me who's harmed. The only organization that I could see that's slightly harmed here is the IRS. And by the way, nobody's paying those freaking taxes. Well, 90% of the industry is not paying them anyway. So I don't see who else is harmed. This is not legalizing. This is not affecting the treaties. This is allowing for research mainly. And secondly, it gets rid of the 280 tax, burden. Those are the two things that this really affects. I don't see where anyone is hurt in this process.
Yeah, I mean, I argued that last week, that looking at the letters that GOP senators are writing and letters that, and just all the opposition against it, Schedule 3 does not increase accessibility by any means. It's not decrim, it's not descheduling, it's research, it's enhanced research, as well as then 280E dropping off, and that's pretty much it.
Listen, those Republican senators and congressmen that signed that letter, first of all, let's be honest, there's very little of them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very few. And secondly, it's like the 50 guys that said the Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russia collusion thing, right? Which has been debunked in court, and the FBI's come out and said that was bullshit too. So the point I'm making is there's a lot of stuff that happens in Washington for lobbying reasons or constituents reasons or because they got money that has nothing to do with reality. That letter is bullshit. I can get you a letter tomorrow from 100 previous DEA agents, which, by the way, we're going to do, that's going to say that this should be rescheduled a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a valid point. I mean, with your connections and with your experience in Washington, the world of finance, I mean, at large, have you heard anything, or are you talking to anybody on the other side of the aisle in the Trump camp as per what their view is on cannabis?
So, Anthony, we have definitely, now that we believe that Trump has a good chance, a very good chance of winning this election. We have definitely reached out to that side of the aisle. I feel pretty comfortable on that side. I'm a lifelong, New York Republican, which is basically, in the rest of the world is a Democrat. But I was born and raised in New York, and so I'm a moderate, Republican. And so we've definitely made that reach out. We are going to have meetings. We are doing our work. At the moment, the only thing I can say is Trump's position on this has always been state's issue.
Yes.
And he supports medical research for sure.
Yes.
He has said, if there are medical benefits to this, I will not get in the way of this. That's what he has said. Is Trump a natural supporter of legalization of cannabis? No. We know that generational issue plus family issues. Is J.D. Vance? Also, no. Right, J.D. Vance. I watched the documentary, by the way, amazing documentary about his life and his book. He talks about cannabis being a gateway drug. Flawed, in my opinion, completely. I actually think it can be used to take people off. I've had drug abuse in my family. I can tell you, cannabis has been a saver and a lifesaver in that situation rather than anything else. However, that's their position. So their position is, I think they'll support safe banking. And I do think that they'll support states' rights. And I do think that they'll be amenable to Schedule 3. That's my view. But I don't think we're going to get some kind of massive, giant reform on cannabis under those guys, like legalization or anything. We're not going to get that.
Do we get rescheduling announced before the election, do you think?
Well, I think that I think that if the Democrats, so I can't tell you, but I received a quote over the weekend of a staff meeting where the vice president basically talked about this issue, and she does not want the agencies to stop what she's running on. She wants this to happen. So, and that's the staff. I'm not going to quote it because that would be wrong, but I think she's on board. She understands how important this is. And as I said, The Republicans have seized crypto. Anything the Democrats now try to do on crypto, anything the Democrats do on crypto, they lose now, right? The Republicans have seized that issue. And we know that when safe banking was going through in May, there was a discussion about combining safe and crypto. I think that's still in play. And if the Democrats are not prohibitionists, and if the Democrats are honest with their constituents and what they've been saying, they're going to be on top of this to get this passed together in the lame duck, right? Both crypto and safe banking. So I got to believe the Democrats would have to be suicidal if they didn't embrace cannabis here and try to get the most out of the cannabis reform in return for crypto legislation.
I think this becomes this becomes big news beginning October 1 and leading into the election for sure. Yeah. You mentioned like stuff about Kamala and what it would look like under her presidency. Like, would you go as far as saying that full-on descheduling could take place under her administration if she were elected at some point?
I think that here's the issue. Because they went the route of Schedule 3 first, they actually, for full decrim, they probably need to do some science. Yeah. That science, to be honest, takes 3 years minimum, if not more. Good now, point. There's enough science taking place out there already, but the U.S. wants U.S.-based science rather than UK or Israeli science, which is what they've been working a lot on now. They've been using anecdotal evidence in the U.S., and they've been using science out of Israel and UK, a lot of which we're part of, by the way, at Curaleaf. But I think they're going to want to do some science, and I think there's going to be some grants given to universities. For instance, I sit on the board of NYU. I know NYU Langone would love to be part of this, doing research on the cannabinoids and everything. I think a lot of the pharma companies are going to be doing it. So I do think it's going to take a little bit of time. Now, politically, if she was running for a second term, if she wins, I think you could get it. In the first term, I think not so much. I think it's going to take some work and some research because they've gone. If they decided to go right away to descheduling, that could have been different. But since they've gone the route of going Schedule 3 first, they got to do the science now, in my view.
Yeah, that's practical. I mean, one other thing that's been it's been around the Curaleaf name, and it's also been in the headlines is hemp. You guys chose to dive in via the select gummies, beverages. Don't really want to dive into the products right now. What's your view on the future of hemp? Do you think that it eventually gets amalgamated with traditional cannabis? It's dealt with in the Farm Bill, or I mean, what's your take on the future of that relationship?
Quickly, the rationale was, I'm going to be completely honest, right? The U.S. cannabis industry, without new catalysts like, New York, Ohio, Florida, if you take those catalysts out of the way, is largely flat. Yeah. And if you ask me, it's not flat because there's no new entrants or new customers that want to try the product. It's flat because the hemp industry has flattened it, the regulated industry, and it's flattened it because these products are readily available. And more importantly, these products are in a form factor that are more customary to new customers than picking up and smoking, right? Mm-hmm. If the industry is going to be honest with itself, most of the people coming into our dispensaries are OG cannabis users.
Yes.
It's not the new cannabis user.
Yeah.
The new cannabis user is the difference between $30 billion and $100 billion market.
Good point.
Or $200 billion market with drinks and everything. And so that's why the hemp industry was winning. And we were watching this. We started going into this 3 years ago. The problem was I did not want to use synthetic cannabinoids. I wanted it to be absolutely pure and absolutely compliant with the Farm Bill because I can't put my licenses in jeopardy on my traditional, my regulated business with this. We finally got there. It took us a long time. We spent probably $6 million freaking experimenting on supply chains to get to where we are now. But we now are in a position where we can commercialize drinks and gummies at the moment. We are working on other products, but at the moment, drinks and gummies, we can commercialize at a mass scale and make very good margins on it. That's why we entered. And we also, it's a hedge. Let's be honest. It's a hedge against what is a flattening regulated cannabis industry. Now, government. I firmly believe that they are going to bring these two together. Now, there's been no Farm Bill this year. So that's gone. So we're talking about 2025. We don't even know who the president's going to be. We don't know what the composition of the House and Senate's going to be. I think it's all a toss-up But the one thing that I said is the hemp industry is stronger lobbying than the cannabis industry.
Yes.
But I want to make sure everybody understands what I mean by that. What I mean by that, it's the farmers. It's not the guys making the products. 80% of the guys making the products are criminals, in my opinion, because they're putting shit into these products that should not be in these products. And that's what Curaleaf is all about. And the Select product is it's absolutely pure. You go on our site, you see all the testing. It's, massive testing of our products, fully transparent what's in them. You know what you're getting. These other ones, you don't. So, but the farmers are farmers. Forget about hemp. They're just farmers. Farmers in the United States rule the roost, right? They are one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in the country. And they want hemp. They were losing money on hemp like crazy. It was rotting in the fields. Now they're starting to sell it. They're starting to see the benefits from it. They don't want to give it up. So what I'm trying to do right now is bring together the hemp farmers and the cannabis industry into one lobbying group and attack this together. And
how's that going?
I think we're making progress.
Okay.
I am meeting with hemp farmers and organizations, and I'm saying, guys, we are better off together than we are separate. We have to work together. Otherwise, they'll divide and conquer. Like the Republicans will try to get it out of the bill. The Democrats. I said, guys, if we get together and we come in, more is better when it comes to lobbying, right? There's more money. There's more what you call. And the other problem with the hemp industry is what the farmers don't realize. A lot of the lobbying that's been done is a lie. You have to understand it's a lie, right? So the farmers aren't the one. The farmers are saying we want to grow hemp, and Congress is saying yes, we want you to grow hemp. The problem is when they sell that hemp to these guys, they're messing up, right? They're doing stuff with it they shouldn't be doing with it. That's where the problem lies. It's not with the farmers. So I'm focusing on bringing all of us together, the good players, the good operators that want to be serious, that are processing the hemp, the farmers and the cannabis industry, and go in there with a unified position into next year's farm bill. And let's try to get this thing regulated. That's where you could see, Anthony and Chad, that's where you could see potentially under Kamala Harris administration, potentially an acceleration of legalization because of that dynamic. So the hemp industry in many ways could force the issue in DC.
Progress,
right? Day at a time.
So it's the best take I've heard on it yet, to be completely honest. Because I haven't heard anybody in the cannabis space recommending or even elaborating to extending an olive branch to the hemp farmers, which I think is completely logical and makes complete sense. They're the ones in the equation that really are driving it from an ag perspective.
Strength in numbers, guys. Strength in numbers. You got to bring as many people underneath the roof as we can to try to get this thing resolved.
Incremental steps. I think the first step is rescheduling, and we get things going the right direction. One last thing I'll leave you. Yes or no? Do you think safe banking passes in lame duck session?
I never making that prediction again.
It's good sport.
How about this? Over under your Giants, 10 wins this year. I'm going to go the under there.
Don't get me going about our New York teams. I can tell you the Knicks are going to be good, though.
They will be good.
Knicks will be good.
Boris, best of luck in your latest earnings, but I appreciate you checking in, and let's keep in touch, okay?
Great, and say congrats to my friend George. Great deal.
Yes, I will for sure. Indeed. All right.
Thanks.
Keep in touch.
Thank
Boris.
you, sir.
That was a great way to start things off. Well, let's keep things rolling along. And needless to say, that was the big announcement that basically woke up the entire industry today. And let's welcome in the chairman of Verano Holdings, George Archos. Good to see you, sir. How are things?
Fantastic. Good afternoon, gents. How are you?
Good. Well, I'm sure you heard the news.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, Mr. Boris Jordan obviously said some good things, but I love the deal. So thought I would pass along that to you as well. Let's bring in the president of the Cannabis Company Holdings, Jesse Channon. Good to see you as well, sir. How are things?
What's up, boys?
Big thank you
Thanks for giving us some life.
Yeah,
it
no kidding.
It felt
right?
invigorating. Felt invigorating to see a press release. General consensus is there were wins on each side. It was a great headline, and it actually feels like the industry's alive. And we have earnings in 2 weeks, so now we got to segue into that.
Yeah. Well, finally, like you said, Anthony, some news outside of Washington involves actual companies, and we can get along with the fundamental stuff. But let's announce, like basically today, in case anybody didn't get a chance to see the press release, Verano Holdings has entered into an agreement to acquire the ownership interest of 3 subsidiaries of the Cannabis Company Holdings, which will expand your footprint in Arizona and also expand your national footprint to 14 states by entering into the Virginia market, George. So first up, based off of this announcement, why does this deal make sense for you and the company, and most importantly, your shareholders?
For us, as it strengthens our portfolio, Virginia is somewhere we've wanted to be for quite some time. Love the state. We have a big Northeast presence. And more importantly, I think it helps both companies, to be honest with you. It's a transaction that not only helps Verano, it helps Cannabis. They're already in Virginia, so they're not exiting the state. It's good to have a nice collaborative partner there, be able to wholesale to each other, et cetera. So it was a win-win for both parties. So for me, that's a great weekend and a great day. Good way to start the week.
Yeah, it's very good. Jesse, look, there's been a lot of talk about you, David, running this company, putting your fingerprints on the business, and you guys really proved a lot here today with this announcement. But again, I'll ask you the same question, like, how do these conversations really begin? And more importantly, why did this make sense? And I think there's a lot of reasons why this made sense for you, right?
Yeah, the conversations began actually months ago. George and I had lunch at one of the events, and he looked right at me and he said, "I got a couple of ideas." He was right. So we followed through. We touched on the conversations. Never bad to have friends with great ideas. So, I mean, look, the reality is I absolutely think it helps both companies. I think one of the biggest winners, if we're being honest, in this is probably the future adult use consumers in Virginia. I think they're getting an incredible operator that's coming into one of the HSAs. They're going to have great brands, another great retail concept. Like George said, we now get a great neighbor to engage in wholesale and to build brands with and work collaboratively with, as we do with them across a number of markets right now. So, overall for us, to your point, David and I made a commitment right when we got into the roles. We said we are going to have a fundamentally different looking business going into 25. And a big part of that is cleaning up some of the legacy aspects of the portfolio in the business that just are not the right fit for us moving forward. There's just certain luxuries that we can't afford, flat out. And so, you have to take advantage of all the things that you can to try to optimize the business that you have in front of you. This was obviously a great way to put additional capital into the business to continue our sort of quest and moving forward of cleaning up the balance sheet, delevering the business. So we're very fortunate to have a sort of a willing partner in Verano who saw the same value that we did going forward in a market like Virginia, in a market like Arizona, where they have an incredible operation they can continue to consolidate. So we're excited.
It's great. Go ahead, Anthony.
I mean, one thing in the press release that I think just needs a little bit of explaining, not deal terms, not the transaction, the HSA part. Can you just add a little bit of color to that on the nuance and how that works in Virginia? Jesse, because that's honestly one of the most popular questions we got about the press release, the actual nuance of the Virginia market.
Yeah. So look, Virginia is a really interesting marketplace, right? And this is one of the things that, when George and I were really talking about and trying to understand exactly how this was going to come together and what this looks like, the potential in Virginia is that you have 5 HSAs, which are essentially geographical areas which have been marked off that we service as a provider. Now, the Cannabist Company up until now has had 2 HSAs, one through the acquisition of G-Leaf and one through our own organic process that we won. Those 2 HSAs were sort of right in the middle of the state with Richmond, and then the southeast portion of the state with HSA 5 with Portsmouth and Norfolk and the beach and all of that area. It's very ring fenced from the sense that you really are the only operator when you're inside of that area from a retail point of view. So we were very fortunate. Both HSAs obviously have very similar population density and very similar opportunities. I actually think that the Eastern Virginia region has an incredibly defensible retail. And then obviously Richmond's well positioned for continued centralized distribution from a wholesale business. So I think there are 2 HSAs that were very, very similar, which made this a really interesting exercise to go through. But I think that's the incredible opportunity for us as neighbors now, as we really have a significant portion of the state. I think between the 2 HSAs that we're going to operate, you have almost 45% of the total population that resides within those 2 HSAs, and they're incredibly defensible retail footprints.
And those HSAs, they're specifically ring fenced from a retail perspective, but cultivators you can freely wholesale to all of the HSAs within the state of Virginia.
Correct.
Okay.
Huh. Did you want to ask another one, or you want me to fire away?
I was for you, Chad.
Okay. Like, this is like, I want to ask him specifics, but it's nice to see, you know, a lot of the times it's like the biggest, you know, feedback from people is getting more and more companies to work together. And kind of like what Jesse just outlined, George, like you approached him back a couple of months ago, but, you know, macro question, like what does it take outside of just assets alone when it comes to personality traits, all those sorts of things that come into play when it comes to working with a partner and really putting an agreement like this together? Because I think it's great to see for the industry, and that's been a lot of feedback, I think, for people in this space, is that more and more companies need to work in conjunction with each other. But, you know, what's this mean, I guess, for you to get something like this done working with somebody like Jesse?
There's nothing better than working with good people, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
always believe in collaborative efforts. Who you surround yourself with is what basically you're creating for your own life. Look at him. Nice guy, right? A good guy. He's trying to help his company. He did today what he did, and what his, you know, his team worked diligently over the weekend to get this done. There was a lot of work over the last few months. You know, they just helped a couple thousand people at their company, right? What better than that? You know, we get to accept those employees, bring them into our family. They'll still get to work with their counterparts in Virginia and in Arizona, and we're excited about the opportunity. I mean, we have great people here at Verano. We have great people at Cannabis, helping those guys out while at the same time helping ourselves. That's a win-win for me. And as far as what does it take to work with other people in the industry, it's usually dropping the ego, right? Which is very difficult when you get people at the top. But at the end of the day, there's not that many of us out there. So seeing everyone succeed is the ultimate goal. You know, everyone's success is our success. So, you know, like Boris said earlier, you know, working with the hemp industry, doing these different things, working collaboratively together makes all of us winners.
Yeah.
One of the other points of the deal that we got a lot of inbounds on was the stock component. I know there was 40 million in stock. I'm assuming there's going to be more granular details, VWAP lockup period that'll drop with an 8K sometime in the future. I know there's probably yes or no answer. I know there's not a lot of color you can give around that. I figured out.
We'll give you all the information.
Yeah, are you asking if it was a tough decision to take Verano?
No, because I don't think it's a tough decision to take the paper at all. I mean, the general consensus is it's grossly undervalued. I mean, that was what everybody was looking at as a bright spot of the deal. I mean, you got 40 million in Verano paper on the balance sheet. I mean, that's bullish, all things considered, moving forward.
It was a very look. I think the market has seen it for exactly what it is. I think it was a really fair deal, and I think that everybody. I think it is one of those great opportunities where there was wins on both sides. Yeah, but we are. I mean, candidly, we're huge fans of the Verano team and the operations. I think culturally we have a ton of alignment. But yeah, we were pretty excited to be able to have that as a component, because we also agree they're significantly undervalued, and we think there's catalyst ahead, right, in both Schedule 3 in Florida and a number of things to come. So I think it worked out well. Yeah, that's for sure. This also expands your footprint in the state of Arizona, George. Again, I guess, what was the attractiveness to expand that footprint within that state as well?
So we like Arizona. We've been there for quite some time. There are the 6 stores there. This makes it 8, gives us more buying power, gives us a little bit more retail reach. The team has been hounding us there to expand, but, you know, the right opportunity had to pop up, and this was it. So, you know, Arizona's a strong state, good margins for us. And, you know, we might be adding more in the future. Who knows? It's a place that we view as a good target, both now and in the future. And, you know, this was just, more of probably what's to come. Yeah.
I mean, one of those locations was Tempe, correct? Which is Arizona State. So I'm assuming that's a great market to be in. And
I mean, both stores are great stores. They were running good operations, good people. The team was excited to meet everyone there. We're looking forward to integrating those stores. They're already strong, and looking forward to making them even better.
Nice.
Got to ask you one last question. What's your feedback, both of you, with what Governor DeSantis has been saying in Florida about the cannabis space? It's a little confusing because we got a big vote coming up. I don't want to get off topic, but at the end of the day, it's just like, have you heard anything? Are you surprised by some of the reaction and feedback he's been providing?
I mean, it's a little bizarre.
Yeah.
You know, he vetoed, you guys know all about the hemp bill there and what he vetoed. So, you know, It's,
Yeah.
you basically have black market weed everywhere, yet he's kind of messing with the cannabis industry. It's kind of one of those things that he has to do. I think he needs to show some strength in what he can accomplish politically. That being said, I'm very optimistic about Florida. Yes on 3 is going to happen, and we're pushing forward very hard. Luckily, we have another collaborative effort amongst all the operators there, and we're looking forward to a strong November and go into the holidays with some big smiles on our faces.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Nice.
And for you, Jesse, like I said, just right in the ship in a lot of the ways. Virginia, Illinois, Ohio set to go live any day now. This is like really a good concentration. Delaware is about to flip relatively soon as well. So we're getting all realigned and everything. But, I think what's great is that if you're going to create revenue and create opportunities, the pathway to revenue and understanding the roadmap is key. And that's obviously what you guys continue to build here in 2024, right?
And look, we're incredibly fortunate. We have a ton of talent. We have incredible teams. We have to do the best that we can in our roles to make good decisions, to put people in a position to win and to create value for the company and for shareholders. I think the reality is, we all know this, not all revenue is created equal, right? And so there are certain activities, there are certain things that we should absolutely be leaning into, that we should be engaging in. I think a market like Ohio, you look at the conversion map, right, over the next theoretically 24 months, you Ohio, you go Delaware, sometime probably between February and April of next year. You got Pennsylvania right on the heels of that. And then now, George and I have to worry about Virginia, right? So here comes Virginia, probably, second half 26, right at the midpoint. So I think there's a lot to do. We continue to try to consolidate and really focus on building into a core business that makes a lot of sense. So I think what you'll continue to see out of us is we're going to continue to rationalize and justify the things that will deliver value as a company. Where we come out of this going into 25 is probably a much more efficient, much leaner, better business going into the year. And so that's what we have to continue to do in our roles.
Yeah. It's one thing we had a conversation with last week with the co-chair of the Coalition for Rescheduling Efforts, but we're getting an update with Adam Goers just about Virginia. And he was outlining to us just about how Youngkin obviously is not up for re-election. And the leading candidate right now is a Democrat that's very in pro favor of cannabis, especially adult use. I'm sure some of that had somewhat of a type of conversation when putting this agreement together and just the future of what Virginia holds as far as adult use. But do you feel strongly, like you said, and what's Adam said, as far as this flipping and getting approval for adult use in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, listen, adult use is coming.
Yeah.
Right? It's coming. But more importantly, there's actually a strong medical business in Virginia. So we're walking into a great business. And I think we can make it even better, right? Doing what we do and having our expertise in our teams and having these guys across the board so we can wholesale to each other and build out that state. I think it's a win-win for both parties. So the medical business, really looking forward to the adult use flip. I think it's going to be extremely strong in Virginia. You have a big population, minimal amount of operators. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Jesse.
No,
go ahead.
I'll stick to the usual talking points, right? Like it's Virginia right now probably subscribes somewhere at 1.2 to 1.4% of the population into the medical. We know mature medical markets prior to flip are probably 3.5 to 5%. Plenty of organic growth ahead of it, and then you have a catalyst moment coming up in 26. So I think we are all aligned that Virginia is setting up to potentially be one of the most advantageous adult use markets for the scaled vertically integrated operators. And I think, we've got a great suite of operators in that state now that are ready to serve.
Yeah. Well said. Well, listen, big win for both companies, and I think really for the overall industry. So congrats, and way to keep people still talking about this cannabis industry as we start to look at more and more stuff that's going to develop over these next couple of months. But let's keep in touch. George, Jesse, appreciate the time, and hope to see you in a couple of weeks in Chicago at the Benzinga Conference.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Just a shout out to the cannabis team. Thank you for working hard on this. For the employees in VA and AZ, looking forward to working together. And
nice.
Also want to thank the team on our side for working through the weekend and past couple of months to get this done. Appreciate it all.
Well said, George.
Well said.
Thanks again, Jesse. We'll be in touch, okay?
You got it.
Thanks,
See you guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Good stuff.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you, sir. Well, that was great. And I could see big smiles on both their faces. But like you said,
it's a good deal.
You were saying the investment community is just saying it's a big win for both companies. That's for sure.
it's rare in the cannabis space that you see a deal where the investing community's general consensus is there's a win-win on each side.
Right.
Very
Right.
rare. And
Right.
I've seen a lot of cannabis deals.
That's why I had to go off. I had to go
yeah.
off script there and ask the question because I'm just like, you know what, this is kind of nice to see. You know, you look at two companies working with each other, working, you know, positive with each other. Like George DePaul, go up to Jesse. Who knows? Maybe approached him at the Benzinga conference back in April, and like, you know, it was great just to see how this all got put together. Because at the end of the day, like you said, you put the egos aside, and looks like a win-win situation as Verano expands. And as far as the balance sheet, this is very, very telling. And here's the crazy thing: is that deal is worth more than the cannabis's current market cap. So that puts things into perspective. Right? Hello?
After today, it's on par.
It's on par?
Yeah.
There you go. Rascal wrote, hey, Shad, why don't you wear your TD hat anymore? The stress is getting to you with some of my hair. Yeah, it's getting a little thin, buddy. It's just part of those things. It's
I mean, what's also good about this deal is just the sheer dollar size. I mean, a 9-figure deal when you're talking about a VA asset, and we'll call them ancillary Arizona assets. It's a good deal to get done.
Yeah. All right, we got our last segment, and I'm really curious to get his feedback. Ahrens, roll the music. It's MSOS Mondays at Dan Ahrens. Let's go. Happy Monday, sir. How are you?
Doing well. I've enjoyed sitting here multitasking and getting to listen to this great show. So,
well, I appreciate it.
Good guests. I love those guys.
And it finishes strong with you. So, big question, ultimate question, the most important question. This looks like a great deal for both companies, but what was your reaction and what's your take on this announcement today involving the Cannabist Company Holdings and Verano?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt it's good stuff. And you know, cannabis needs things like this. They need to continue to rebuild a little bit and get money in the bank, which they did. Yeah. And it's a little bit of they're continuing a restructuring with thoughts toward the future. And then you look at the other side, Verano and George, they're in a position where they can play offense, and they have money.
Well said.
I think a real important thing here too is this is very different than, well, these are two companies that both know the real value. That's a very important thing, especially when you look at the way George does business with Verano, where they own all their real estate, things like this, coming from the restaurant side of things. The man knows how to put value on a business and not to overpay and not to underpay. Oh, well, maybe to underpay when possible. But no, that guy's not going to overpay for buying assets. And I think that's very telling to what these assets are worth. And yeah, you can get out the calculator. I'm not sure if it's really in excess of cannabis net worth, net market cap, cannabis. But it's not much more.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, cannabis is market cap is way undervalued. Of course, it's way undervalued. And I think this is very telling of what assets are worth and what the value is here for both sides.
Yeah, I think what's telling too is that there's been a lot of questions. You know, a lot of people that follow this story closely regarding the cannabis, some of the leadership change and some of the question marks surrounding around David and Jesse. This really puts things into perspective, I think, after today. And hopefully, the momentum continues to roll because like I said in that podcast, it was great to see the two companies work with each other closely and really get this deal done. And as a result, when business is conducted that way, what ends up happening is a win for both companies. Yeah. Investors get reinterested and want to get re-engaged with the industry again. So really, as a whole, it's a win for the industry. And you want to see more of that stuff happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it seems positive for the industry. There's a lot of positivity being spread around on social media. Just having those two guys on your show at the same time. I felt there was a lot of love in the room. So
I know,
it's a
right?
good thing.
I did like the idea of, and I know it grabbed your attention, Anthony, was when Boris talked about, working with the hemp farmers and seeing where that goes. I think there's a lot of uplifting there, and there's going to be a lot of work required. I'd love to be in a room when Boris is speaking to these people and just understanding like what's the sentiment like, and how this potentially could work together. Because he makes a good point. If they can work together, man, that would really grab the attention in the event that Kamala were elected as president and fast track. But these are a lot of what ifs, and we all know how that works.
Wait and see what happens if tier 1 MSOs start buying out hemp farms.
Yeah,
that'd be talk about low cost of production. Just wait and see.
That could be interesting.
Boris is looking at the long game. You want to get economies of scale and really start to crank margins. Go into the hemp business. Start acquiring hemp farmers. Bring them in together, and yeah.
Robert
Griffith, he was smart and on top of it with coming out. Oh, there's my camera. These beverages, select, 0 proof, shipping nationwide. You're welcome, Boris.
If you were to say right now the top 10 brands in the cannabis space, it's very subjective, and it's usually experience driven by the individual that's going to give you the top 10 brands. I'd be willing to bet anyone that's been paying attention to the sector, there's 3 brands that are going to wind up in that top 10: Select, Wana, and Kiva.
Yeah.
And who's dove headfirst into hemp-derived product?
Yep.
Wana, Select, and Kiva.
Yep.
I'm getting absolutely bombarded by Kiva ads right now on Instagram for Delta 9 hemp-derived gummies. And I don't think they're going to slow down anytime soon. They're probably going to keep on getting more frequent.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a trend. And I don't think that these big boys would be dumping in or jumping in if there was a fair amount of risk to what could happen on the back end of the Farm Bill getting re-rated or hemp getting addressed, etc. And Boris said it, the most important part: naturally derived cannabinoids.
Yeah.
None of the synthetic crap.
Yeah.
It's got to be naturally
quality
cannabinoids.
Robert Griffiths, I think, is in agreement with you. A lot of hemp in New York. Anthony basically saying that you nailed it. We also have some investors from Australia that are logging on here, Dan. I'm keeping an eye on MSOS from Australia under 750. It's getting tempting, giving all the big U.S. news in the pipeline. Good to see you.
Hello to the land down under.
By the way, apparently Tilray crushed it.
Yeah, I just reading this now. They achieved 26% net revenue growth is what was just announced. So quick heads up for anybody that's interested. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot tomorrow, not at 4:00, but 3:00 tomorrow afternoon. We're doing a special live stream. Erwin Simon, CEO of Tilray, will be joining us to talk about their latest earnings. Finally, Anthony, we get some press releases and some news pertaining to this space. I know it's been pretty dry the last, I don't know, it seems like the last 60 days, but like anything in this industry, and I think you both agree, it all happens all at once on the same day as things get going, right?
Yeah. It's
a lot all at once.
Yeah.
We're getting deals, potential final rule, decent earnings from Tilray. I mean,
Hey, quick reminder. Our fund YOLO, because it's the international or global strategy, it owns some Tilray. So I will take a rising tide lifting all boats any day. Hey, I want to double back to Boris just a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Boris has been a leader in an awful lot of ways. He's in Czech Republic, making an early deal to get in the UK and into Germany. And then one of the first big MSOs to really be in, the hemp beverages and so on. Even going back to a year or two ago, he said, I'm going to exit the markets that are our weakest markets and expand in the markets that are our best markets. And you know what? 6 months later, that's exactly what he was doing. So when Boris is talking about getting together with the hemp farmers and the MSO side of the business,
pay attention,
and trying to marry those up, yeah, absolutely paying attention because he's probably actually doing that.
Well said, Dan.
I'm actually going to start looking at some things tonight once we get off this call, because there's probably some money to be made in hemp M&A and consolidation if they do get amalgamated and everything winds up going to plan.
Happy Glass puts it best. Boris is playing chess, is he not?
Everyone talks about his safe banking call and whatever. You know who? I mean, don't ever bet on somebody that's afraid to be wrong, because if you're ever afraid to be wrong, you're probably not going to get much right moving forward. I mean, I don't care what anyone says about Curaleaf. I mean, Dan nailed it on the head. Curaleaf has been in front of all of the trends of the industry by far, and they're a hell of a U.S. operator.
Christopher Brady Lights, if Anthony were to say, hey, I tried this hemp drink and it tore me up, I would be sold at that point. So it looks like you got a lot of influence. So I think that we need to
really know what that means.
Well, I hope, whatever. I'm not going to speculate. I'll just leave
it. I don't consume cannabis to get like super fucked up.
Yeah. Lots of comments. Oh, Noah came in, basically said good day and good to say. Yes, he was saying hello to the investor from Australia, but what a way to start the week. And this is good. So nice to see as well. When we talk about Kumbaya and all working with each other, I do want to highlight that you have your own podcast, which is the Alpha Nooner, and you had Don Murphy on last Friday. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I know he put out a Twitter video last week that basically talked about how SAFE will probably be put to the back of the back end regarding the HOPE Act and leading into the election, knowing that there's all these other new pressing issues with Kamala now at the forefront for the Democratic Party. Was some of the topics related to that? Like, what was some of the feedback that he provided? Do you can you give us a heads up on that?
Well, that's a whole lot of question there, Shad.
What else? What's your favorite color? What you eat Saturday at 4? And
well, what happens with the Alpha Nooners? It is a live show, much like we're doing a live show now. Yeah. But hey, we're an ETF sponsor, an ETF company with all the regulations. So what we have to do is send that video through compliance, and sometimes have some disclosures added to it. Sometimes trim some things that the compliance people say to trim, but then we'll post the entire replay most often. So keep your eyes open. We'll be playing, if it's not up already, the Mackenzie interviewing the Don will soon be live.
Yeah.
So he addressed all that stuff, Shad. All of it.
Good to know. Thought I would just tease it up like we do in the media space. One last thing, and I'll leave this with both of you. Anthony, you put out a tweet this morning that basically said in the next 100 days, this industry is going to see radical change. You believe that? You want to elaborate off of that?
Well, I wouldn't tweet anything I don't believe. But yes, I do believe that. 100 days out of the election, we're looking at Florida adult use. We're looking at the final ruling that I really do think will probably come home before the end of August. This sector is on the verge of radically transforming. There could be wrenches thrown in at any moment. Can't really see those coming. We got the political will of the VP that's now the head of the Democratic Party or Democratic ticket. The DNC, I think there's going to be a lot of cannabis talk compared to the RNC, which there was none. And I mean, I think that we're probably going to look back and say that this sector bottomed out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
When we really saw definitively that Biden was being replaced, because we do have the first potential candidate in history that actually is for cannabis in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
She said that they weren't descheduling it fast enough. She was on camera actually saying that they weren't doing this quick enough. That's why I do believe Boris. I don't think there's going to be any ALJ. This was probably baked beforehand, and they did the comment period as a formality just so they didn't get swarmed with negative press. I mean, I really do believe that it's baked, it's coming, and she's going to use it for political capital in the next 60 days.
Yeah, I agree. The Republicans playing the crypto card, and this is all about cannabis. And to his point,
I mean, you saw what Trump said at the Bitcoin conference.
I did not. What did he say again?
He's going to fire Gary Gensler on day one.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes, he's going to fire Gary Gensler on day one. He knew exactly how to pander to that audience. Then he said he's going to start a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the United States, a bunch of stuff. But I mean, he's got their ear.
No
Definitely
kidding.
compared to what
Sure.
you see with Kamala. Whenever anything comes up on Twitter around crypto and Kamala, it's you guys have tried to F us for the past 4 years with just no regulation. Gary Gensler's been a pain in our ass. We've seen no innovation. We've been begging you for sensible regulation. They don't believe her, and they're not going to believe her unless something happens. So that crypto crowd, Trump's got them wrapped around his pinky, unless something radically changed in the next 3 months or 100 days.
So by her basically saying we can't get this done fast enough makes you believe that this is different this time for cannabis, because a lot of can be the same said the same thing about cannabis, because we all know when the Dems basically took office 4 years ago, it was like, great, this is going to be great for cannabis, but here we are, nothing's changed 4 years
If
later.
she doesn't bring this home, no one's ever going to believe a single thing out of Washington as it relates to cannabis ever again.
Yeah,
The story is
yeah,
cooked.
yeah.
You know, I
hear ya.
think a lot of people, knew that Biden didn't really love cannabis reform. He is
I agree with
a
that.
super old white guy that authored the crime bill back in the day and said all sorts of things. But I'll agree with Anthony. That's what's very different about the Kamala ticket now. She is really genuinely in support all the way around of it. So the only thing I'll say is, you guys realize it's been in the past month that the assassination attempt on Trump happened, and just the past week that Biden stepped down and Kamala was put in? That's just the last 2 weeks. Can you imagine what the next couple of months are going to be like?
I
It's
know.
going to be a wild ride, people. So buckle up. There's going to be some crazy, crazy shit happen. But I am bullish on cannabis for what that's worth.
Well said. I think today is the day that you get re-engaged again, that's for sure. But Anthony, you said it best. Right before as Biden's basically announcement of not running again, that was the bottom, it might appear. You might look back at that, and the point that you just made seems pretty accurate. But listen, Dan, appreciate it. Let's keep in touch. We'll check back with you next Monday, okay?
Absolutely. And
All right.
I try to avoid the predictions, much like Boris now, because we've been burnt too many times. But I would not be surprised if that bottom was 2 weeks ago. Bye, guys.
Well said, my friend. Have a good week. What a day to start off the week. But yeah, this is great. Anthony Cogniglio, good to see you, sir. And we got to get you on this week.
I just got back from vacation.
Yes. So
refreshed.
we will email you, Mr. Anthony Cogniglio, and see if you can come on Wednesday. I'd love to get your take on the upcoming earnings season and some of the things that you think we should be watching for. Because when there's anyone that is very smart, reserved, and has really good ideas how this industry is moving along, you, sir, provide a lot of great information. A lot of information that we got here today. Lots to take in. But all in all, great show.
Yeah. It's great. It's always great to have thought leaders to the caliber that we got today.
Yes.
On simultaneously on the show. I don't think there's anywhere else that's doing that in the cannabis space.
Yeah, and we want to say special thanks going out to all our viewers. I know last couple of weeks it's look, we've had to play the political card because it's been blackout period, and I know a lot of you are hoping that we could ask specific questions related to earnings or Germany related to Boris Jordan. That's in a blackout period, so we've basically have to follow those guidelines, but we will have those questions in a couple of weeks post earnings. But most importantly, I think today just gives you a glimpse of the type of hosts and information that we're going to be able to provide heading into the fall season as more and more news starts to break and lots of things to talk about. Anyways, Shad, you should do an after-hour show with smoke sessions, some news, but not all news, conspiracy talk like the break room at the TDR HQ. We've thought about it. As well, Rascal, as I said earlier, saying I should go back to wearing the TDR hat, says the stress is getting to my hair. There's not much there, but yeah, hair doesn't look too good today. I'll try to fix that for next show. I need a hair.
And yes, everybody, Erwin Simon is joining us tomorrow to go over the Tilray earnings at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes. So Outside looking in right now, it looks like they had a great earnings report. As I said earlier, 26% increase in net revenue. So we'll outline some of that. I think we should also talk about hemp and the Sweetwater brand and see if that's something that they would ever consider into the future, because it's a hot topic right now, as you brought up today with Boris. But in the meantime, enjoy.
I was going to say, I'm going to listen to the earnings call that's going on right now, and I'm willing to bet that it's probably going to be addressed on there. But we absolutely will cover that tomorrow with everyone.
Yeah. Quick reminder, as usual, lower right-hand corner, click on that QR code, subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. We continue to see huge growth week over week. Lots of great information being put together. And as well, we're going to have some new components that we're going to start adding to this newsletter in the coming months. So make sure that you are basically one of the original OGs and subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. We appreciate it. Smash and that like button and leave some comments below. Anybody or any feedback that you want from us, let us know. We'll reach out to our network and get the right information. As well, any questions you want us to ask Erwin, leave some comments below, and we'll make sure to include those during our interview tomorrow. Appreciate you checking in here today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. See you right tomorrow.
Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel, because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.